Hey kids, welcome back to the show. Merry Christmas. This is part 2 of the episode where Clayton and I freak out about the Stanley Parable. So watch part 1 first, I guess. Bye.
This time, to make sure we don't get lost,
It's
I've
trademarked.
employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
That's not the... Oh, no.
Onward, Stanley. Is the story of no destination still a story? Plying
Oh,
a
I
journey
don't like how
such
it's
that a
squiggling.
destination
Oh,
is
no,
inevitably
not on the
conjured
wall.
into back there.
It's loud.
Wait, cut the music, go back and look at that fern. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story.
Alright, let's count how many leaves are on this bad boy.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
One eternity later.
782. 783. 789.
I think...
Oh, God. Wait, what number was I on? Oh, God, we have to start over. Alright, let's do this again.
No.
He has control over the restarts, though.
He
He's
does.
not omnipotent, but...
Omnipotent is all-powerful,
Right.
and omniscient
Is all-knowing.
all-knowing. So he's
He's
not...
neither.
He's neither.
He knows a lot, and he has significant power, but he's not omnipotent or omniscient.
Definitely more powerful than Stanley. That
Whatever it might be,
turned
Stanley,
around too many
I'm
times.
ready for it.
Non-Euclidean space.
Oh no, I don't like a circle room.
The confusion
It's
in it.
recursive. It's just a
You're telling
recursive
me-
game.
That's what this is.
Fourth
It's all one
restart, fifth
giant
restart.
ending, and we're supposed to restart the game eight
Where are
times.
we right now? We've done.
Now he's being led on, apparently.
He's confused. He doesn't understand.
So the game has power over the narrator, and the narrator has power over Stanley.
If the narrator is not omnipotent or omniscient, then who is?
I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it.
Kind of bookstore.
And the timer stopped. Well, in the meantime,
Wait. Okay. Okay.
So you,
Where do we start? Where do we start with this?
the game overrid the narrator's decision to just stop.
It's unnerving. That ending was just so creepy. And it's the same kind of theme, the same motif of choice.
Yeah.
Do you get a choice in all of it? You know, the narrator's own writing is not chosen by the narrator. Like, that is already set in stone. Everything he's gonna say.
Even his choices are fixed. He chose to not go along the schedule, but it still restarted anyway. Yeah, it's what is choice?
discover not an indication of any human life. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anger.
They account for everything, don't they?
I think there's an Easter egg I can get if I try to walk back. If I don't go that way. I turned it off. Ah! No!
Dismantled the controls once and for all.
On.
Oh, Stanley, is that what you wanted? Control?
From
Me
now
oh,
on,
no, about
there's
me.
no way
Where we're
of stopping
going.
it now.
What all this means?
You have
I
no-
barely know where to start.
There's nothing you can do to stop it from...
You'd like to know where your co-workers are. A moment of solace
exploding.
before you're obliterated.
There's
All right,
no
I'm in a
button
good mood.
sequence.
You're
No
done
buttons.
What's the
anyway.
big number?
I'll tell you
there's
exactly
no numbers
what
on the
happened
wall
to
that
I
tell you
erased
what in
them.
that order to
I
push
turned
them
off the
in.
machine. I set
And
you free.
that, symbolizes
Of course, that was
the
merely
point
in
of this whole
instance
thing
of
is
the
that
story.
your
Sometimes when I
choice
tell it,
actually
I
does
simply
matter.
let you sit there
And
in your
once
office
you make a
forever,
choice,
pushing buttons endlessly and then
sometimes-
dying alone.
sometimes
Other
they're
times,
final.
I let the office sink into
Yeah.
the ground. You're in for quite a disappointment.
I don't like this version
here's
of the
a spoiler.
narrator.
I know, it's scary.
That timer isn't a cavalier, right?
Cool, got chills again.
Yeah. So the narrator got really evil
Uh-huh.
right at the end there. he wanted to humble us
Mhm.
and show us how little power we really have. But it also showed us that we do have power. Because in most games, you don't really have power to change what happens.
Hmm.
But in this game, we had the power to do that.
We
We had the
did.
power to make the narrator do that.
And I think that is part of the reason why the narrator is angry in that instance. And that would make sense.
Because we made him angry?
Because we made a choice and we affected the thing that he had to do to tell the story.
Right.
And he has to do it over and over again. It's a commentary on the choice as a video game player you can make and the choice as a video game creator you can introduce to the player. If you allow them to make a choice, then the logical conclusion is that the player has some power and the creator has some power, and they have to split that power.
The relationship between player and creator is really variable. It depends on the game. It depends on, who did the creating and who they're creating it for. This one feels a lot more personal because it's an indie game. And I think that because it's more personal, the interaction that the game has with the player feels a lot more genuine.
Mm.
It feels like it contains a lot more emotion behind it than if it's just some big corporation game.
Okay, Clayton, I think we've got time for 2 more endings.
All
But
right.
before we get there, I want to introduce a new segment called Quizzical Quotes.
Oh, okay. Quizzical
Yeah,
quotes. Quizzical quotes.
Quizzical Quotes. And
Alrighty.
in this segment, we're going to be talking about some interesting quotes from an exterior source that relate to this particular piece. And then we're going to talk about that relationship.
Okay.
I've got 2 quotes and 1 concept. So it's not really a quote. It's kind of a quote.
Quizzical concept.
Quizzical concept, sure. Now, these are all from the same book, 1984,
All right.
by George Orwell. If you haven't read the book, spoilers.
It's a good book, though. You should
It is
read
a good book. Definitely read the book. If they could make me stop loving you, that would be the real betrayal. She thought it over. They can't do that. They can make you say anything. Anything. But they can't make you believe it. They can't get inside you. What do you think this quote can describe about the Stanley Parable?
If you go into this game knowing nothing, which unfortunately I was not able to do because I've experienced some of this game before, it tweaks your beliefs as you discover more and more of the game. You go into the game believing, oh, it's just a fun little mod and, or fun little indie game. And you get to the first decision and you're like, oh, it's a choose your own adventure thing. And then, maybe you follow it through a couple of times. And then you start to realize that the game starts out by making you believe that the narrator is all powerful, right? Then it
Mhm.
reveals that the narrator isn't all powerful. The concept of making an individual believe something often implies that the thing that they're made to believe isn't true,
Mm.
but that's not necessarily the case. We've been made to believe through this game that our decisions matter, and they do.
Mhm.
That's the whole point of different endings, is that our
Right.
decisions matter.
Right. This game does a really good job of presenting the idea of free will in a game, showing it, and then immediately taking it away and presenting reasons why it is flawed in the very concept of it. You have control, and then you no longer have control. You've reached the end of the path, and now there's no other options. I got so many 1984 feelings from this video game.
There's kind of distant yet omnipresent oppression.
Okay, second quote. We do not destroy the heretic because he resists us. We convert him. We capture his inner mind. We reshape him.
In this game, a heretic would be someone that doesn't follow the directions of the narrator. It doesn't matter what you do, eventually you will follow the narrator's instructions to a T. Whether that's the first thing you do or the last thing you do,
Mm-hmm.
you will always be converted to follow instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the search of finding every ending, you have to do it.
You're kind of rewarded for following directions perfectly, because the ending for this game, the true ending, as we've seen, the one where you follow all the instructions, that's the one where Stanley feels happy at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not in control. The
No, he's
narrator
not.
is telling him what to do. He's not in
Oh.
control. In 1984, there's a theme of 2 plus 2 equals 5. Do you remember this?
I do remember that, yes.
So, the main character, Winston, was it Winston? He is adamant that it is impossible for him to be made to believe that 2 plus 2 equals 5, right?
That's-
And
yeah.
eventually he finds out that may
can
not be the case, right?
Yeah.
The narrator can change things depending on what you do as Stanley. And as Stanley, you can also change things, but the main idea is even when you choose to do something, the narrator can still make something happen even when it's not necessarily the logical thing that will happen.
The thing about 2 plus 2 equals 5 in 1984 is, spoiler alert, at the end of the book, Winston is made to believe that 2 plus 2 equals 5 because Big Brother says it does.
Mm.
But 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 5.
Mm-hmm.
He just believes that 2 plus 2 equals 5. And so I think that that is really important in regards to the narrator and his relationship with the office building and with Stanley. Because the narrator cannot control the office building.
Mm-hmm.
The narrator can control if a door opens or closes. He can control whether or not a specific thing is revealed or not. But he can't physically change the building.
Mm-hmm.
And the building is reality, and he just determines what aspects of reality Stanley sees.
Mm.
By yourself.
Decision by yourself.
I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Where the way they've set this up, a spouse is another person that can help you make decisions.
Yeah, there's a certain appeal in human nature to not have to make the decisions, and being able to share them and share the consequences with somebody else is very appealing to lots of people.
Mm.
All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your
Did you actually think you
no.
had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Rip. Press N on your keyboard.
Stanley is
There's
pushing
no
a
way to
button.
progress other
Now,
than to press
he's
the button.
eating lunch. Now he's good. But there is no
Ah.
answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. But I don't make the
1984
rules.
vibes,
I
number
simply play to my
5?
intended purpose,
I
the
don't
same
know.
as
There's
Stanley.
too many.
And I tried again. And Stanley
Oh.
pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
What?
The act of pushing a button is a huge theme in this piece. When you push a button, you make a choice. As I was playing this for the first time, I was actually considering how pushing buttons is really all we're doing right now.
Every time you press a button, you press it the same way. It is fascinating that they fixated on that simple act of doing something in this game, because everything is very simple. It creates an interesting contrast because a lot of the choices that you make are a lot more complex than pushing a button.
Hmm.
But all of the decisions occur in the format of pushing a button. You're choosing whether or not to obey a quasi omnipotent figure by choosing whether or not to press what series of buttons.
When you're playing a video game, the only thing that you're actually doing, the only actions that the human being is doing is pushing buttons and clicking. In a linear progression of video game, there's only one sequence of button pushing that's, acceptable. The computer may as well just be telling you the exact buttons to press.
This game does a really good job of giving you different things for different series of button pushes.
Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh,
Wait!
hey, look, it's a new passageway.
Wait!
Kill surprise.
That's so amazing! I just keep loving this game more and more. So here we are.
Escape.
Escape.
Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Chills, man! What? Wait!
Has she been narrating the narrator the entire time? I don't like that she says we die, but we don't die.
What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? Death becomes meaningless, making life the same.
She's obviously got more control over the situation than the narrator does. Maybe she represents the game. Maybe she represents the player's psyche. Maybe she represents your thought process, Thomas.
Clayton, what argument is she making here? What is her goal? What is she trying to accomplish right now?
I think that this game, the whole argument of the game, is you should be enjoying yourself.
Huh.
Here are the reasons why you should be enjoying yourself. Here's a fun scenario. Here's a bunch of different choices you can make to get different endings. Here is this, that, and the other thing. And this game is a bit more direct with its counter argument than most games are. One of the points that it makes to support its argument that you should be having fun is the bizarreness of it, because there's not a whole lot of things that leave you truly gobsmacked, right? But by creating this game where there's a single narrator the whole time and he's quasi-omniscient, and then all of a sudden you bring in another narrator that's narrating the narrator.
Right.
That leaves you like, what? If everything is an argument, then this is just arguing, play me, I'm fun. If we're talking about the argument of the second narrator to Stanley himself, I think their argument is that you're inconsequential and things are a whole lot bigger than you perceive them to be.
Anyways, there's an exit here. Do you want to exit?
Sure.
All right, let's go.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
We've talked about the relationship between narrator and narrated. In this video game where everything is predetermined, right? The narrator is kind of confined by the choices we make. He can do stuff, and he can affect what we're doing, but ultimately, he doesn't have a choice on what ending we're going to do. And I think that's why this game works so well for being so recursive in nature and meta and, I don't know, that kind of self-referential kind of feeling. Because it's a video game that is about the feeling or feelings that you get from playing video games.
It's really cleverly done. It's an interesting thought experiment.
Well,
let's turn it off.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe because we're going to keep pushing these out. Thank you for enjoying the previous ones. Thank you for enjoying this one. And with that, everybody.
This has been the Clayton Perspective.
And with that, everybody.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time